Hi, everybody. You're watching The Sit Down. I'm DJ Sixsmith. Shelley Shepard Gray is here with us, a New York Times bestseller. She's got a brand new book, A Perfect Amish Romance, coming out January 19th. Shelley, really nice to meet you. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I can't wait to talk about the book.
Yeah, so this seems really fascinating for a number of different reasons. Listen, you've written a ton of books in your careers, but the Amish world is fascinating on a number of different levels. What was it like putting this one together?
You know, it was really fun. One of my favorite things to do as a writer, especially before we were all quarantined, was go visit libraries. And one time I was sitting at a luncheon and visiting with some librarians, and they just happened to be librarians for the bookmobile. And they were telling me all about going and helping their Amish patrons and making sure they had the books and the materials they needed. And that little conversation stuck with me for years. And so when I was able to start a new series set in Berlin, which is up in Holmes County, Ohio, I thought, you know what, maybe I could combine that. I could combine my love for libraries and my fascination with the bookmobile and my love for writing about the Amish. And so that's kind of how this series began.
So what was the biggest surprise about writing this book? Because you've done it so many times, but what was something unanticipated that popped up with this one?
You know, it always surprises me because you're right, I have written a lot of Amish books, but the characters, I just grow to love them. And especially a brand new series, it's like your neighbors move in next door and you are like, well, I know they're Amish and there's a lot of them. But you get to meet them and you start to fall in love with them, and they just seem like real people. So that was a nice surprise. And also it was kind of fun. And this one is I have an English bookmobile librarian, and she plays matchmaker, which was something kind of fun to do. And honestly, my editor was like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Why don't you run with it? But as I was writing it, I was thinking, I wonder if she's going to tell me to rewrite this whole thing. So it was kind of fun as I wrote the 3 books in the trilogy to kind of think of new ways that this librarian could use all her skills to make sure everyone around her had the materials they needed. And of course, they fall in love.
You mentioned this idea of humanizing Amish people, just they're real people, they're going through real issues, real love stories. Why is that such an important thing, especially with the stereotypical view that some people do have of Amish folks?
Oh, you know, Gigi, I'm so glad you asked that. It's when I first started writing about the Amish, I had only been to the Amish stores to get cinnamon rolls. So that was the extent. I knew there were buggies. I knew, they had the triangles on their buggies. I knew everyone was super nice when I bought cinnamon rolls, and that was the extent. And one thing led to another during my research, and I met a couple at church who just happened to have a best friend, an older Amish up in Sugar Creek. And so I slowly got to develop a friendship with all the Amish people there, and they helped me. And what I love to tell new readers to this genre is that you can't pretend that the Amish are perfect or that they're paper dolls. Just because they may all look alike doesn't mean they're the same. For example, in Holmes County, there's 40,000 Amish. You take 40,000, a group of 40,000 people anywhere, you're going to have a whole assortment. Some are going to be just lovely people, some maybe not so much. You know, you're going to have people gossiping. It's just going to the whole thing. So I really enjoyed just trying to, exactly what you said, humanize these people. And even in this book, that my heroine just happens to love reading romance novels like I always have, but she's just sure that nothing like that could ever happen. Love is only available in a perfect Amish romance.
Well, I'm sure people are really looking forward to this one. When you think about your writing process, how has that changed during COVID-19? Because every writer has a different feel for it, likes to go different places. What does that look like for you in the past year or so?
You know, it's actually been okay in some ways. You know, my husband is a salesman. He's used to be on a plane nonstop. So this has been a challenge for him, an adjustment. But I am so blessed to be able to write books all day. I mean, I love living in my make-believe Shelley world. And so it really hasn't changed that much. And we moved to Colorado 2 years ago. And one thing I was missing was the chance to get to visit the Ohio libraries and so forth. But now with our Zoom and everything else, I'm now able to start scheduling Zoom meetings with different libraries all around the country again. And so that's been kind of a bonus for me is I get to still visit with people, talked about my books, send them books and so forth. But I don't have to leave the house. So
Nice
for
too.
far so good, I guess. I mean, it's been a challenge for sure, but I'm grateful. I'm grateful for my job always.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that. And when it comes to the Amish community, there's really like a sliding spectrum of how people kind of fall. You have some people that are not of this world at all, right? They're just doing their own thing. You have people in the Amish community who are reading and have cell phones and things of that nature. So how has your stuff been received by the Amish community just over the years in general? I'm pretty curious about that.
You know what? The Amish that I've talked to, they seem to like my books. And one thing that they say often, which I'm most proud about, is they say, Shelley, you make us feel like real people. And it's funny, I'll talk to my Amish friends and we always are talking books and she'll say something like, oh, I don't like this author or I didn't care for this book. And I said, well, why? And she said, they don't make us, you know, this one made us seem stupid or something like that. So I'm appreciative of that. Now, granted, you know, I think I've written over 50 Amish novels. And when I first started, I asked my Amish friend Claire, I said, well, do you have any advice for me? And she's a reader just like I am. And she said, Shelley, just make sure when you're on page 121, the reader wants to get to page 122. And so I try to make my books, I mean, fairly exciting for what they are. And so that's always a concern is sometimes I write about characters that aren't always, they're very far from being perfect. They have a lot of, they have issues and some serious issues. And at first I used to worry that the Amish readers might be very offended, but they, if they haven't told me. And I'm just really grateful for their support.
Well, we're all grateful for your writing and to do over 50 Amish books and really show the depth of who these people are. It has been a treat. So Shelley, thank you so much. Congratulations on the new book and best luck with everything going forward.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me on this morning. I appreciate it and enjoy your puppy.